Hello. It's the weekend. Oh, I needed this weekend, y'all. You just have no idea. So, I have been promising for video after video that I would do a video on all of my beloved palettes, both eyeshadow palettes and face palettes. So, today is the day. Um, I used to have so many palettes. Like, I owned every chocolate bar palette. If Urban Decay came out with a palette, had to buy it. Too Faced came out with a palette, had to buy it. So I've purchased a ton of palettes, some that I loved, some that I was like, what is happening right here? I've been so disappointed with so many palettes. And then in the end, you buy a palette because you really love a couple of the colors, and those are the only colors that you use in the palette. So I recently moved from Montgomery to Virginia. When I packed up to move, I purged a ton of my palettes. There was this organization there in Montgomery, Alabama, that you could donate things like that to, and they went to women in shelters and women being released from prison. So I donated a ton of my palettes to this organization. And then when I moved to Virginia and I was unboxing my boxes, I got rid of even more palettes. I gave several to my daughter. I gave some away to friends, and then I sold several. So what you have left are the palettes that I said, these are my holy grails. These are the palettes that I cannot live without. So if you want to know what palettes I kept, I've repurchased a few, and I'll let you know how it's going with those new ones. But if you would like to know which palettes that I have kept and which ones I recommend for you, also, there's a palette giveaway, my November giveaway, but you got to stay tuned for it because it's going to be somewhere towards the end. So if you would like to know more about what palettes I go for and the palette giveaway, just stay tuned. Hey, let's dig in. We're going to start with the eyeshadow palettes. We'll start first with my least favorite, but why did I keep it? If it's my least favorite, you will find out. So my least favorite, but one that I still could not part with, was this Tarte. I bought this Tarte palette. I don't even know what the name of it was. It was a holiday palette from maybe a year and a half ago. I don't know. But when you open it up, look how dirty. This is one of those palettes that when you open this, it came with a mascara, an eyeliner, a lippy. I did use, and I got a white shirt on today. This ain't gonna go well. It came with a highlighter. I used the highlighter quite a bit. Blush, never really used the blush. A contour and a bronzer. As you can tell, you can still see the design in there. I never used those. They were not my favorites. Now let's move over to the shadows. This is why I kept this palette. There really are some go-to colors in here that even when I use other palettes, if they don't have that perfect transition color or that perfect highlighter color, I will go to this one to use. It's got a black, it's got a bronzy glitter. At this point, I've restocked some of my palettes that I could probably go ahead and purge this one, but there's just some colors that I love in here. So, I mean, you can tell, like, whew, I've used that one. Until these favorites are empty, I'll probably continue hanging on to this one. All right, my next one is this Urban Decay. It's called the Urban Spectrum palette. As you'll see, most palettes that I purchase have very kind of neutral shades in them. They're browns, they're bronze, maybe some burnt oranges. Like, I go for the more fall colors because that's just the colors I like. This is anything but. So here's the colors that we have in here. I did use this when I did the makeup look for football because it had some pretty blues, but this is why I kept this palette. I don't purchase bold, bright, crazy colors, but there are randomly days that, you know, you're like, need to pop a teal on my eyes. So that is why I kept this one. I do pull for it when I want these kind of bold, wild colors that I don't have in any of my other palettes. And if you'll notice, the ones I've used the most are the browns. All right, moving right along. Next in line, we have my Bobbi Brown Nude Drama. If y'all remember my favorites, when I first purchased this, it was like a total love affair. Like, I went hard for this. Every time I traveled, it was in my suitcase. The colors are very pretty. Let me cover the mirror so the light doesn't bounce off. The colors are very pretty. But I got bored with it very quickly because I really was only creating maybe one eye look from this palette. And I don't know. I'm going to keep it because I paid a lot for it. But it's a boring palette. There's one beautiful look that I can create with it. But for the most part, I find it to be quite boring. But I'll keep it because it does have some pretty transition colors. And this sort of champagne-y gold, I'll swatch that one for you, is so stunning on the eye. I mean, look at that. It's like foil on your eyes. It's not swatching as pretty as it is. You know, I am determined to get this makeup all over my white shirt. Hold on, let me get me a paper towel. We are now getting into my top 5 eyeshadow palettes. These 5 palettes, I kept all of those for a reason. But these next 5 palettes, these are I go hard for these palettes. I mean, these are my jam. So number 5 is the Pure Cosmetics Soiree Diaries. I got this in a boxy charm. I will tell you the reason that I love and adore this palette is for this row of shimmers. I'm all about that frost, that glow. You know, when I step out into a room, I want to be like, boom. And these shimmers definitely give me that. Let's do one more. They're just very intense shimmer colors, and sometimes a girl just needs that in her life. I mean, look at this chocolate. I love it. So when I want a bold shimmer, I tend to, especially in a neutral, like a warm brown, I tend to always go for the Pure Cosmetics Soiree Diaries. All right. My number 4, Holy Grail. This palette is, actually, this palette's the one that I used to create this look today. Yeah, every color on my eyes came from this palette. It is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. And it is, oh my gosh, these colors, y'all. So on my eyes today, I'm going to turn it this way because she's got the color. I used Beam. No, I'm sorry. I'm this way. I used Faint as my transition. I used, I just stuck my hand in it. I used SBN. Is that SBN? Oh, it's backwards. Hold on. Buns. I used Buns in my crease. The color that I have here in the corner is called Pool Party. This one I have in the middle, which is called Royalty. And on the outer corner, I used a little bit of Abyss and Soda Pop. So I did that in the outer corner just to add a little bit of depth. And then when I was finished, I was like, it needs a little something else. So I went back and got Hunts and put a little more color in the corner. But these colors in this Jaclyn Hill palette, let me swatch one for you. We'll swatch Diva. Look at Diva. Oh, Jesus. And Pool Party. Check that out. And let's do a darker color. Let's do this red. So that red is called Crayon Apple. I mean, check that out. So the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette, I recently discovered that it is at Ulta. Ulta is now carrying, and look, you can't even wipe that off. I should have got a makeup wipe. Yeah, so Ulta is now carrying Morphe, which is great. And I had originally heard that it was only going to be carried online. And then I went into our local Morphe, and there was our local Ulta, and there was a Morphe stand, and I was like, ah! So, number 4 in my Holy Grail of makeup palettes is the Jaclyn Hill palette, and it is. All right, number 3 in my Holy Grail eyeshadow palettes is Marc Jacobs. My hand's like all kinds of colors. This is just, this is much like the Bobbi Brown palette. There's not a lot of looks that I can create with this one, but the looks that I do create are just, I feel like $1 million. They're perfect shadows. They are blendable, they're pigmented, they're easy to work with. So when I want that one look where I'm going somewhere and I'm like, I'm about to do this, I go for my Marc Jacobs palette. I'll swatch one for you. Oh my gosh, it is literally like dipping your hand in butter. It's insane. Oh my gosh. And you know, the thing about his palettes, his eyeshadows are probably the best eyeshadows on the market. I don't like his other palettes. Like, I don't know. That's truly the only one that I like the colors in. I wish I liked the others, but I look at the others and go, what am I going to do with that? What am I going to do with that? So number 2 is my Too Faced Peach. This is the only Too Faced palette that I kept. I had the chocolate bar, the semi-chocolate. I had every Too Faced palette. This was the only one that I kept. There is not a color in this palette that I do not use at some point. Usually if I travel, this is my travel palette because it's so small. I did travel once with my Morphe palettes, but they're so soft and buttery. I'm afraid they'll break very easily in my suitcase. Luckily they didn't when I did travel with them, but this is my travel palette. The colors are beautiful. The colors are blendable. They smell like peaches. I mean, what's not to love? But this is a beautiful, beautiful palette. If you're looking to get started in Too Faced palettes, this is the one that I recommend. But so let me tell you this. This small palette, they give the weight on here somewhere. So each pan is 0.03 ounces. It's a total weight of 0.54 ounces. Whereas a Morphe palette, the total weight is 1.98. So you get 0.54 versus my #1 Mac Daddy favorite palette of all time. 0.54 ounces, 1.98 ounces, and the Morphe is cheaper. All right, so this is my number 2 Holy Grail, and as far as traveling palettes, this is number 1. I always travel with this one. Now, my number 1, my favorite palette my Holy Grail palette, the palette that I go to the most. And it is also the palette that I have a brand new unboxed to give away. Is my Morphe Fall. You can tell it's dirty because I use this bad baby. My Morphe Fall Into Frost palette. It is the 35F. Oh my gosh. These colors are so pretty. Oh my gosh. You can tell the ones I use the most, right? This one. I go hard for that one. I've probably dipped into this one, this one, this one, and this one the most. They're perfection. The one thing that I will tell you about the Morphe palettes is the formula is so soft. When you dip your brush in it, it shows a dip. Like they're, oh my gosh, they're creamy. Like I've never met an eyeshadow that was quite so, I double dipped. Let's start that over. I dipped the same finger into two different colors. My poor paper towel is looking rough, y'all. Oh, Jesus. All right, let's try this again. It's hard to dip, too, when you have these nails. I'm about to go to the nail salon in a minute and cut them down. They're just too long for me. All right, here's the colors. As you can tell, there's some pigment. Look at that pigment, y'all. I mean, that was one swipe. So, my Mac Daddy, Holy Grail, if I had to, if it was the apocalypse and I could only leave to go fight zombies with one palette, it would definitely be my Morphe Fall Into Frost. As I said, I have a brand new unboxed one to give away. Stay tuned to the end of the video and you will find out how you can win this amazing palette. I even have another Morphe palette on the way. It should be here in a couple days. All right, that is it for my eyeshadows. I will link every eyeshadow palette down below in the description box. Some of these may no longer be available, but the ones that are, I will link below. So now let's move on to the base. All right, you ready? I only have 4 face palettes. Look how dirty my hands are now. Oh, I only have 4 face palettes because I tend to not buy a lot of face palettes. And I got them backwards. So my number 4 is the Jaclyn Hill. I just realized I have a Jaclyn Hill palette in both piles. How crazy is that? The Jaclyn Hill Becca collaboration. It's going to be hard because one of these is broken, so I'm not going to be able to turn it up. It's the champagne pop that is broken. So there's 2 highlighters, which is really, that's what sold the palette. Champagne pop is beautiful. Beautiful highlighter. It's one of my Holy Grail highlighters, which is why I've not parted with the palette. Then you have Prosecco Pop. Prosecco Pop was in my BoxyCharm the other day, so I was excited about that because I love Prosecco Pop, but Champagne Pop is, if you want to get one Becca palette, make it Champagne Pop. The blushes, I never use. The bronzer, I never use. I just, as you can tell, I've had this palette for like a year and I just don't. And again, this goes back to my issue with palettes. I paid a lot of money for this. All that I really use is Champagne Pop. So I could have just went and got a Champagne Pop, got more of the product, and probably spent a little less money. That's why I don't do palettes so much anymore. So that's number 4 in my, should I swatch Champagne Pop for you guys? Y'all want to see it? All right, we're going to leave it down here to swatch. I will swatch Champagne Pop and Prosecco Pop for you. You guys can't really see it for the lighting, can you? Well, you're just going to have to take my word for it. Champagne Pop is stunning. Okay, number 3 in my face palettes is the Sweet Peach. This comes with a blush, a bronzer, and a highlighter. The blush is beautiful. I don't love the highlighter. I think this would work better on someone that was very pale, or the bronzer. I think it would work better on someone that was very pale. You just can't really see it. So I did use this palette to travel with a lot because it was so easy to travel with, but now I don't because I have another one that I travel with. But if you're pale, or if you don't like a bold highlighter and a heavier bronzer, I would recommend this. The blush is beautiful, which is probably what sold me the most on it, was the blush. But I just don't feel like I get enough from I never go for these two, ever. But I do go for the blush. So, but I was traveling with it and making do with the highlighter and the bronzer until my next palette. So this next palette, I had this palette several years ago. When I say several years ago, I mean like maybe 5 years ago. And as new products came out, I went away from this palette. I had purchased it like maybe twice. And I started buying other products. So I hadn't used this in forever. And then a friend of mine was selling hers. And I was like, wait a minute. I think that's the palette that I used to love. So I purchased it off of her. And sure enough, it was the exact same palette. But it's the MAC palette. And this has been my travel palette as of late because I can use this to set my under eye, and then it also has a little shimmer so it brightens the under eye. I actually mix these two blushes together. Actually, it's the blush that I'm wearing today. I don't use this one ever, but this is my contour and this is my bronzer. I love this bronzer because it has a sheen to it, which I love. I don't like matte bronzers. Remember, I'm all about that glow. So I want anything that's going to make me glow. But this is a beautiful, beautiful palette. I don't even remember the name of it. But this is what I have been traveling with all month long. And then even when I'm at home, I grab for this. My number 1 Holy Grail. Again, if it was the zombie apocalypse, what palette you're going to grab? It's definitely going to be my NARSissist palette. I just love every single color in here. This is an absolutely gorgeous bronzer. This is a gorgeous contour. I love every blush in here. I'm not a huge fan of this blush, but I mix it with the others when I want sort of a different look. The difference between this palette and this palette. So why have I been going for this one more? Why do I always grab this one to travel with? If I had to pick a favorite, it's going to be this one because I love the blush selection. Every blush in here is my jam. I love the contour. I love the bronzer. This I love. But here's where this color here is light enough for me to set my under eyes, brighten my under eyes. So this is why I pull for this when I travel. This one is not light enough for me to set my under eyes and brighten my under eyes. So if I traveled with this one, I have to take a separate under eye highlighter or under eye setting powder. So I don't travel with this one, but when I'm home, I pull for this one probably more than I do the MAC. So if you're looking for a great overall bronzing, contouring, blush palette, NARSissist is beautiful. The MAC is actually a little bit more expensive than the NARSissist because you get more product in the MAC. But they're very close. I did pick second and first, but they're very close. I love them both. So that is it for the palettes that I have. I am going to purchase a couple more. There's probably like 3 Morphe palettes that I want to purchase. One is on its way, so I got 2 more Morphe purchases to make. And then where I'm going to go from there is no more palettes. I am done purchasing palettes because in the collection I have all of the transition shades that I will ever need. I have some pops of color in some of those palettes. So really what I want to do now is start purchasing singles. I'll buy a Z palette and purchasing singles that are colors that just stand out that I don't have in any of these palettes. So after I buy those Morphes, it is all about the single shadows. All right, want to find out how to win that Morphe palette? Just stay tuned, my loves. Okay, this palette could be yours. How do you win this Fall into Frost brand new, the box has never been opened, Morphe palette? Here's what you got to do. First of all, we go through this during every giveaway. If you're not subscribed, you have to subscribe. You can't win my giveaways if you're not subscribed. Also, hit that notification bell. That bell notifies you when I post a new video, so that'll help you stay tuned to all of my videos when I post them. Here's the third thing you got to do. You can actually get multiple chances to win this if you want your name entered more than once. So every time that you share any of my YouTube videos on Facebook with the hashtag Autumn's Morphe giveaway, which I will put that hashtag in the description so you don't get it wrong. That hashtag is how I go verify that you have in fact shared the videos. For every video you share, your name will be entered to win. This giveaway will run for 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, I will draw out the name. I will have my lovely assistant, many of you have seen her before, do the drawing for me. But every video you share with the hashtag Autumn's Morphe giveaway is another chance for you to win this palette. Again, winner will be announced in 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching, guys. I have so much fun doing these videos, and some of you have religiously watched every single video, and it means the world to me. So you all that are watching, if there are any videos that you would like for me to do, if you would like for me to do a video on my lipstick collection, or a how-to on some eye looks, or how does Autumn contour and highlight her face, anything that you would like to see, please let me know in the comment section below, and I would be more than happy to do any of the videos that you would like. Until then, have a wonderful, wonderful November.